Hello everybody, my name is Lex Blazer. You might recognize me from various how-to videos online, but today I'm coming to you on behalf of TNB Naturals, and we're going to talk about flowering and CO2. This is the final of our four-part video series explaining the basics of CO2, and today I'm just going to explain what are the benefits of using CO2 during flowering phase and why you might want to consider doing it. When your plant isn't flowering, it is growing whatever you're going to harvest off of it, be it the buds or be it the tomatoes or whatever it is that you're after. Now, while I have said in the prior video that the best bang for your buck is using CO2 during vegetative phase, there are various benefits to using a product like TNB Naturals Enhancer to add CO2 during the flowering phase. Those who are looking to use CO2 during flowering to in some way make cannabinoids more potent are in for a disappointment. That's not what CO2 does. In flowering phase, just as in vegetative phase, the point of CO2 is actually to make the photosynthesis happen in a more efficient manner. Growers from Ed Rosenthal to large hydroponics grow chains like GrowWell do recommend using CO2 in the flowering phase in order to increase the density and bud development that's going on, particularly if you apply the CO2 in the first 2 to 3 weeks of the flowering phase when your buds are really just getting going and doing the big portion of their bulking up. It is also even possible to shave just a few days off of your flowering phase by using CO2, which surprises a lot of people, and even I, many years ago, did not believe that there was any way to shorten the flowering phase at all. But in fact, many growers have observed that you can shave maybe 3 days or even as much as a week off of it to get to the same place with the plants that you're using. Meanwhile, certain growers like Jorge Cervantes, that I follow very closely, have also pointed out that using CO2 during flowering phase thickens the stems of the cannabis plant, causing it to be able to hold more weight better and ultimately developing better buds as a result. Also, it's worth adding that bugs don't particularly enjoy high concentrations of CO2, and while you need really high concentrations in order to kill them, a lot of growers report that when they use CO2, they do see a general reduction in bugs and pests and things of that nature. So just an interesting note for you guys. Of course, it's important to know how and when and how much to apply when it comes to CO2 during flowering phase. As I said, you're looking to particularly apply it in the first 2 to 3 weeks of flowering phase, and you got to make sure that you're getting the best bang for your buck as far as how many parts per million you're injecting into the room. As you guys can see by this chart, you really want to be hitting around the 700 to 900 parts per million range when it comes to CO2. Otherwise, you're just kind of spending money without getting a lot of extra for it. And yes, do remember that CO2 does get absorbed by plants in the daytime, not in the nighttime. So if you have the ability to control what part of the day you release CO2, then release it during the day, and you're wasting even less of it if you don't use it at all at night. On that note, I hope that this series was useful to you, that you've learned a bit about CO2 and growing. If you did, subscribe, hit that like button, and I'm sure we'll see you again.